Welcome to the ComCap Roundtable. Today we're discussing big data opportunities. The Internet of Things allows companies to streamline productions. Security measures need to protect critical functions and data. Business analytics processing big data allow companies to better understand their clients and consumers. Businesses need to keep up with business intelligence or they lose sight of their markets and clients. IT consultants see a growing market to enhance their clients' businesses. We see a world of opportunities we will discuss with a variety of excellent players. Our guests are Greg Johnston, President, CEO and Director of Carl Data Solutions, Vancouver. Carl Data develops next-generation data collection, storage and analytic solutions for data-centric companies. His goal is to deliver a comprehensive data management solution for data sets of any size, type and complexity. Karin Sondermann is Senior Manager for Digital Business and Hybrid Cloud Projects with the IT consultancy Avanade, a joint venture of Accenture and Microsoft. Turning data insights into accessible information or automated actions for business value and new business models is her passion. Thomas Langkabel, National Technology Officer, Microsoft Germany. He knows Microsoft Azure. Solution providers like Carl Data build on Microsoft Azure. He cares for the system's security and the client's trust. The global good beyond companies' profits matters to him. Dr. Björn Bringmann, Head of Data Science with the international consulting and financial advisory company Deloitte in Germany. He issued a patent on network graph evolution rule generation. He published about learning and predicting the evolution of social networks. Dr. Steffen Wachenfeld, co-founder and managing director at Savedo. That is an international online platform for financial services specialized in savings products and online banking. Steffen is responsible for banking relations, operations and product. Wolfgang Bernecker, managing partner of Pandata. They developed, for example, a tool for Germany's biggest tabloid paper Bild to show in graphs how viewers react on Facebook postings. Wolfgang has a combined background in electrical engineering and management. Greg, tell us about the tools Carl Data uses to enhance their clients' businesses.
We use the Microsoft Azure platform, and within the Microsoft Azure platform there is lots of different tools that we can use to build big data solutions. We use event hubs, stream analytics, machine learning, of course, and Azure Data Factory. All these tools allow us to build a very robust back end for the applications that we're acquiring. Our company acquires applications and then tears out the back end and puts in something that's compatible with today's data. And the companies that we're focused on are utilities companies, people that collect a lot of Internet of Things information from sensors. And we find that the Microsoft platform suits us extremely well.
Karen, don't you, with Avanade, also use Microsoft Azure?
Of course, we are the #1 partner for Microsoft now using this technology, and we have a lot of customers now where we are right now in the projects to enable them now what they can do with the Azure platform. And it's fantastic what you see, how fast you can do. This is a very nice commercial model. This is on a pay-per-usage model, and I think this is the big switch what the customers have to realize. It is not buying any infrastructure anymore or anything like servers or something like this. You just talk to the different business scenarios what you want to do, and then you can just start and start immediately, and you can show the value and the business value very fast, which is coming out of the different analytic components, as you said, on the different tools what we have there available now. This helps the customer very, very fast.
Thomas, you're the National Technology Officer. What does Microsoft Azure offer clients? Why bother? How do you improve their business?
Okay. I think it comes down to 3 elements from the cloud. First, of course, it's efficiency. If you look to the normal operations, especially on infrastructure as a service, which is one component of the cloud service, you have a lot of benefits from switching to cloud services. So you don't have to invest in your local hardware and your servers and so on, and use them for several years. You can rent them on a pay-per-use basis if you need them. If you don't need them, you can switch them off again. So I think this is one element. Another element is security. I think it's really important today, even in a world of very, very fast challenges coming from the cyber threats to customers. We have a lot of very, very interesting security offerings coming from the cloud, like advanced data protection from the cloud, where you can see if anything happens inside your organization, which is not normal. And third, and this is my favorite one, is of course innovation. And I think especially with the Azure services, and Greg mentioned, you mentioned, we have a very, very high velocity of new services, time to markets. I think we really support these very, very fast innovation cycles in the society and in the digital transformation very, very well with the Azure cloud.
Those two use your system. How many more?
Oh, in fact, we have thousands of customers in the world. In fact, we are in the cloud business even long before it was named cloud business. We, let's say, started about 83, and if you have a normal Windows update or anything, it comes from a cloud. It comes from a Microsoft cloud. So we have very, very strong footprint in the cloud market, and we have customers with all different kinds of cloud. Our cloud consists of three services. It's the Azure cloud, of course, and on the software as a service part, you have Office 365, and you have the Dynamics coming from the cloud. So full scope. I think we have customers all over the world using the cloud and moving to the cloud, and we are coming now from an on-prem world, as we call it, on-premise world, going to a mobile-first and cloud-first world. And so nearly every customer is facing the challenges to move to the cloud and to invest in efficiency, in security and innovation.
Greg, Azure is one toolbox, but there are other toolboxes. What else do you use?
Well, most of what we use is actually on Azure, but we do use some features that Azure is obviously open, so we can create virtual machines and run whatever we want on it.
Are there other open source programs you use?
We do use Hadoop, and we do use a few other open source things to supplement what we use, but typically a lot of the applications, the things that we build into the applications are typically using the Microsoft built platform. In particular, the ones that we're working on now and having great success is machine learning. For our customers that collect a lot of sensor data, the machine creating predictive models, looking into the future by collecting forecast information along with historical data sets, government data sets, combining all that information together, putting it into the machine learning tool in Microsoft Azure, and then creating that continuous feedback loop allows us to come up with something the industry has never seen before. So it really, really supercharges our applications.
Machine learning, do you apply that too?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the part
Give us
now.
examples.
Yeah, I have some nice examples. So we are working close together now with some different clients right now in the south of Germany, I should say it this way. And we are implementing for those customers right now very business value oriented applications or also models, as you said. So these are made mainly on the Industry 4.0 oriented. So we are bringing then all the different data, what they have right now in their factory, of their smart factory maybe, together in one data lake, in this case on the Azure platform. And basically on that now we are running different models. We talk to the industry guys of the company, to the domain specific guys. So we need these skills because our skill is more on the technology part, but we also need the domain specific skills then to bring this together to show the value then to the business decision makers now from that companies. And it enables us now really now to bring this value very fast to the business decision maker, and then they can see afterwards. They told us, especially now in one company, now we never thought that you can bring something like this now really to us. We didn't believe so fast in the cloud in the past, but now you show us really that it really works, and that is our approach. We really want to show the art of the possibility, and we can do it with basically on Azure pretty fast. So it means now we are not talking about years of projects. We are talking about maybe 8 weeks or 4 weeks proof of concept, and then you can show it immediately. And I think this is very, very, very nice, basically on the Azure platform.
Do you have that experience too, that you can give your clients a taste of fast success with the new knowledge they can really use?
Yes, absolutely. The proof of concept is invaluable to us. If we can take a data set and supplement that or augment that with additional information, and then show a domain expert within the company that we're working with what is possible. That grabs their attention because the technology is quite new in terms of integrating it into applications, and a lot of people don't know what's possible. And although things keep them up at night, we provide solutions for that. And really, what you got to do is you got to go in and you got to talk to the domain expert and say what does keep you up at night, and then go back and create a proof of concept to solve that problem. And we can do that very, very quickly on the Microsoft Azure platform, which is great.
What is the challenge when you approach leaders in your company to convince them that trying your services with the cost involved brings a change that's worth it?
I would say there are two major challenges. First of all, most of them, they have no clue about this new stuff, so we need to educate them, or we need to bring the value over. And in this case, we show different showcases. So we have an innovation lab at Avanade where we bring the customers in, or also in the Microsoft Technology Center. We bring the customers in. We show them what we have done on different customer sites now. And we do this now in a workshop character. So we bring this to the customer, and then after a while they realize they start thinking about their own processes. They start thinking about what would it be in our case, so they do the transfer of the thinking, what we're showing and what kind of problems they have. This is the first thing what you have to do, and to convince them. And the second step is mainly, as soon as you have done the POC afterwards, maybe you have to bring it now to the table that if you run a project in a longer tail, it costs money. Of course, there's no free lunch in life, so we have to spend the money for this. And then you have to convince the upper management or the top management level. And as soon as it comes to that point, now in Germany especially, we have family-led companies in this case. So you have to bring this now to the chairman board, and that's a different discussion because those people do not have any clue about what is possible basically on the data. And
so you talk to the boss and his sister and his aunt.
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah, you can say that.
And the aunt sits on the money.
Yeah,
she sits on the heritage.
Yeah, and then
so you got to convince her.
Yeah, you have to ask for money now to implement these new projects, and it enables them to do something different what they have never done before, and it enables them also to talk about a new business model which they maybe have never thought about before. So this is a complete change, and especially in the family-oriented companies, they are traditional, they are pretty conservative, they have fear about the cloud, they don't want to move the data to the cloud. So it comes to the point when we bring in Microsoft so that they can convince those guys then that it is really a secure environment, so they may not have any fear. And especially those data which are coming from machines or from different sensors, as you said, those are not the critical ones, and you can bring them there. And then you have to convince them, and you have to show them immediately a business value. If you cannot show a business value in a very short term, you will not succeed.
How are your clients? Are they just as difficult? Or you're American and they're living in Germany? We have a traditional industry that produces things you can touch, and we are worried about data protection. How are your American clients? Like who? The sewage system in Los Angeles, for
It's
example.
the city of Los Angeles.
City of Los Angeles.
City of Toronto. These are some of our clients. And
what do you do for them, just to give us an idea?
Well, the city set up an infrastructure for sewage and wastewater management, and in that infrastructure, they put in sensors to monitor how the system is actually operating. And through that, they can find out things like if a system is cracked or not performing well and they need to replace it. They can do infrastructure planning on how big the pipes need to be in a new section and things like that. We do offer all sorts of functions as well to let them know if an event that caused, say, an overflow or a flood or something like that is something that's going to happen on a regular basis, or if this is a 50-year event. These kinds of things we provide.
So you can tell them there's a big rain coming. go clean your pipes before the rain comes. Clean the dirt out of it so the water can rush through it, right?
Those are the things that we're actually building into the application right now, is the predictive modeling. So looking at the weather moving forward. So right now we have alarming and reporting, so they can see what's happened, and when sensor reach a particular threshold, they can send out a team. But what we're moving into, and we'll be launching this quarter, is predictive modeling to give them advance warning on what's going to happen and how that's going to actually affect their system. And that's really what we're using the machine learning for.
Now, Karen just talked about the negotiation and the conviction that's necessary to really make them understand and then believe that the effort of the analysis brings them some insight and a better outlook and new perspectives. How do you experience your clients? Do they open the door and say, come and walk in, surprise us?
Absolutely not.
Just tell us the price, we give you the money.
No,
how do they react?
There's an RFP process. It takes 13 months, and then they sit on it for a little while. No, it's typically a longer process, but we're hoping to shrink that down a little bit by coming up with these what we think is mission critical type functions within the application. So for instance, if we can tell the City of Toronto that there's going to be an overflow in a particular area due to a weather pattern that's coming in within 7 days, they can have a crew down there because they know using our application. Well, I think that they're going to probably that's going to bypass the RFP process, and they'll probably put that into place fairly quickly, because what it does is it prevents people from getting sewage backed up into their basements and things like that. So there's a lot of these functions that we're building into our application that we think are so critical that the adoption process should take a much shorter time.
Okay. What do you think about those? You hear this feedback from them, you hear feedback from more consultancies who base on your system. What do you conclude from the feedback you hear from companies who base on Azure?
I think we have to work on our procurement models, because our technology cycles are speeding up very, very, very fast. And if you see the classical procurement models, for instance, in the public sector area, you have procurements for years and on different concepts, phases, and so on. If you work in a technology and with a technology which is really, really fast and has very, very fast cycles, this is out of line. So you can't do 3-4 years procurement processes when the technology moves through 5 cycles in that time. And so we have to think about that. And so it's really thinking about not IT, but thinking about impact. What can IT do now with the cloud and with the platforms to solve your real problem, not to solve your IT problem?
Okay.
I totally agree. But there comes another challenge. As you mentioned, now everything now is getting so fast right now. So the cycle of the software deployment, especially on the Azure cloud, is running up. So it's getting so fast. It's also a challenge for us, of course, because we have to be always on the new skill, because the skill is necessary to have if you want to implement projects. And look at the customer side, especially in analytics and IoT. We are mainly not talking to the IT people. We are starting on a business decision maker discussion, and we try to understand their business pain first. Before we talk about any platform or any tool, we first have to understand what is the pain and what does he wants to resolve, or what kind of problems he wants to solve. This is the major key. And then we come in a discussion in a workshop mood where we say, okay, which tool or which technology of the whole stuff of Azure, this is a huge services platform, which is the right one for this specific pain what the customer has right now. Not everything on Azure is the right solution for everything. So we have to be very careful here, and then we start a nice small project in the beginning. As the customer has a business case he wants to solve with us, then we start this, and we start it very small. But you have to think big, and you have to start small, and you have to scale fast. That is the major thing what you have to know if you start or do anything with Azure.
Do you share this experience? You need to speed up? Can't sit on what you
We're
applied?
yeah, we're going full speed ahead, whether they want it or not. There's in the utilities industry, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit, and you know, it wasn't too long ago that most of the analysts were putting together spreadsheets and trying to come up with calculations to put into a report to give to their superior, and by the time that report was produced, the event was over, and who knows what happened. We deliver that information in real time, and now we're delivering it in real time with a predictive analytics or a probability model of a certain event occurring or causing a potential problem. So this is way ahead of where they were. They've come a long way in a very short period of time, so it overwhelms a lot of people, but I think...
So you have to tell your clients slowly, step by step, there are new ways and opportunities without scaring them?
We keep in the old features in the application just in case they want to do it the old-fashioned way, but then we have a button that they can press, and we're hoping that they press the button more often, because that's a much quicker and more efficient way of actually doing things. That's where the power of machine learning comes into these applications, is looking at the pattern recognition and the time it takes for these people to build the models. We can take that pain away and make their life very simple. But we'll build in these features alongside of the older tools as well, so they can compare them at their leisure. And once they see that we're absolutely 100% correct, they can dispense with the old ways.
Thomas, speed.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to the development models as well. So you have graphical interfaces to train the models with the algorithms and to input your data sets. You link the data sets graphically, and so you can work with the customer and train the model with him together with him, not in the back office coming back in the next 3 to 4 weeks with another version. You do it together, just in time, in real time, and you see the results.
I totally agree to this. So this is really something we call it the two-speed IT. We have now one speed IT, which is in the backend, in the traditional backend, where we have all the inherited systems. And in this part now, we are concentrating on cost efficiency mainly. And then there is something which is around this inherited systems, and this is the next speed of IT, and this is of course the capability of cloud and the Azure platform, because there is a complete new development operations model internally, and this gives us a developer now a completely different speed of developing new kind of applications. But the tricky is that you can't do one thing without the other thing, because we have the systems in our mid-market or in our industry, and we have to take care about this as well. So that means now you need integration technology here as well, and this is where we come in, because we are not an ISV who's selling solutions. We are a system integrator in this part, but we are system integrating on the business processes and on the IT as well. So and I think that is the understanding what the customer has to have in the future, that they have two kind of speed of ITs, and they can use both to implement their new demands, what comes from the business.
Do you talk to the IT people, or do you talk to the people who deal with the concrete matters?
I would very rarely speak to the IT people.
Do they not like you because you make them superfluous? You tell the others, you know, your IT people, you know, find a solution for them.
The only time, well, most of the time, we talk to the IT people, it has to do with security matters, data security, and we have to go over that with them. The other time we speak to the IT people is when we have to do some systems integration. So for instance, with SCADA systems and other data which they want to write information back and forth between the two applications, then we work with the IT group to accomplish that. But I would say that that's the exception to the rule. Most of the time we deal with other vendors, and we put in, because it's software as a service, we put in place the entire application. We grant the user rights to access the application, and it's the domain expert or the business user that actually takes control of the entire project. And A lot of times the IT people are not even involved. It's much more likely to actually work out as well, because you're dealing with the end user throughout the entire integration process. And so it's a wonderful model.
Is there an example where you didn't just help a company to smoothen their projects and services and processes, but also to discover a new service,
Yeah.
understanding their clients better?
When you talk about this holistic picture, I would say this is a picture now which is called digital transformation. And in the digital transformation, you have different streams. There's one stream which is concentrated on the market penetration, which comes to the journey, customer journey, digital CRM, and all these marketing aspects, where you also can use then social channels maybe to combine those things and to get more information about your customers. And this is one thing. So this is the digital customer journey together with digital marketing analytics. On the other hand, there is something now which is more internally inside in the company. Think about maybe a production company who's producing something, or think about Office 365. It's the same thing now. If you want to be more productive internally in your company, so then you are focusing on internal processes. But when it comes to the change, what you really mean in transformation, then you should have to focus now on IoT and analytics. So you have to think about what is my core competences in my company, what I'm producing. Can I do something more intelligent on my product? This is one thing. Can I offer my product maybe in a different way? I'm not selling any product anymore maybe in the future. I'm selling a service in the future. Think about, can I give you an example? Think about a tire. If you see a tire now, everyone has a car, everyone has wheels on the car, and there's a tire. You can sell a tire. So you are just a company selling tires, but you can also offer a tire as a service. That means the tire will be paid maybe based on the number of the kilometers you are driving with the tires, or it will be paid basically on the vehicle type. And when you think about in the future, you can also say, hey, you have all the sensor intelligence information now from the tire, what kind of aggressive driver you are, or what kind of fuel injections you have, or what kind of mobility services you want to have, or what kind of fleet management maybe is involved. And think about the next step. If you have all those information now in a different ecosystem which are coming up here right now, then we are talking about the third step. And the third step is that we talk about a different ecosystem platform, basically on the business platform, where you maybe can provide from a tire perspective. Your tire company can sell those data now to an insurance company. And that means now the insurance is pretty interesting to get those data, because they can think about a different business model for me as an end user maybe, that they can offer me a different flexible and agile insurance policy.
Well, are you a fast driver or are you a boring driver? I'm a boring driver. I just cruise.
I don't say it here right now.
You don't say it here. So think about this. Insurance could go up.
That's why I'm not saying it. But insurance also taking care about Facebook and Twitter and those things, because they check you maybe in the future what kind of sportive activities you have, what kind of risk you are doing inside in your private life, and maybe they collect all those data as well, and then you get in a different policy in the future.
Okay.
So think about this. This is something which is happening right now. So we are talking about information as a service, and the informations will get in the futures now, will build up new business models for each company. Every company in the world has to take care about the relevant information in the future. Everyone. There's no one who may not do this. If someone will not do it, I'm not sure how long they will survive maybe. Maybe they can, depends. But we have some examples right now in Germany as well, that we sold some nice companies now to China, and so they have a lot of data. They would have a lot of data. Those are gone. So the business model for those companies are gone.
Thomas, what is your experience? Do people in big companies you're talking to understand the new world of services they may focus on to make money on a different basis, not on the basis of sales, but on the basis of licenses? Or
if you talk to the global players we have, of course, they are completely in that mindset. If you talk to the smaller, medium businesses, we still have some work to do, and there are some hidden champions who are doing that already. So, but a lot of them have to be convinced that they have to rethink their business models from a digital perspective. And Microsoft, or our partner approach, is really an industry approach to spark ideas on innovation, to make them challenge their business models and to help them define their future based on their digital transformation. And this is, it's a challenge. If you look to different countries, it's completely different. Let's say look to Africa. They will completely skip the PC area because they don't have desktops. They move to mobility right from the start. So from zero to hero, let's say. When they have the connectivity in place, they have the phones, and they make all IT and digital transformation happening in the mobile world from starting now.
But this is a very nice example, especially the Africa example. I think this is pretty nice. There is a lot of things what we can do with IoT right now. Think about digital farming. Right. Digital farming, you know, you can have sensors now. They predict maybe the weather forecast. They predict then the seeds, what kind of seeds you should...
We have a problem with water pumps, and we have millions of
very nice solution for that.
Yeah.
Go.
I know that. Yeah,
go.
Great, of course. Of course. Yeah.
Pitch it.
Pitch it. Well, we do water management, so yeah, and the proliferation of IoT devices is astonishing, and what it's going to do is boundless, I think, and it's only limited, of course, by our creativity to put these things in place.
Absolutely agree, but I think it's not only about the IoT and the water pump, it's also about the ecosystem. Think about the different industries, like, you know, we name it, the pharmaceutical ones as well, you know. They are producing now different seeds in the future. They need some prescription also for the rain, when it's the right time now to put the seeds on the field, you know. All these things. So the farmers in those countries are not so intelligent, right? They need advice, you know, and we can give them the advice on the right manner so that we can fulfill all the demand, what kind of problems we have in those countries. This is a very nice example. I think this is a social one as well, you know.
Karin Sondermann, thank you very much for sharing first your passion for the business, which I do feel,
Thank you very much
and
for
your
having me.
valuable insights into big data opportunities. Now let us welcome Dr. Steffen Wachenfeld, co-founder and managing director at Savedo. That is an international online platform for financial services. Steffen, who are your clients?
The clients of Savedo are international banks. Currently we work with multiple banks out of the European Union, some from Czech Republic, Portugal, also German banks. And we integrate with the banks in order to be able to provide the products of the banks onto our platform to customers in different countries. So currently we serve Netherlands, Germany and Austria, and we get the products from different countries via API integration.
Is it B2C or B2B? Would I be a customer or my bank?
Yeah, it's a good question. So
I'm glad you like the question. I wonder about the answer.
Yeah, we distinguish between users and customers. So you would be a user if you invest with Savedo, but as it's completely free for you, the actual customer from our point of view, the one who pays our bills, is actually the bank. So because we get a commission on the assets we're managing, and that commission is paid by the banks, we consider the banks our customers.
What toolbox is that based on?
So we have built our own APIs to integrate with the banks, and in terms of the data, we also use mostly custom solutions. Unfortunately, I'm not a customer of Azure platform yet. We have been, I mean, that's also an interesting topic. So Google and Amazon are very smart in getting to companies at a very early stage and giving them special offers in order to lock them in early on, and then to grow their whole software and infrastructure, and as well also then providing data services like Redshift database is a typical database that you'll find in smaller companies, and it grows up to a bigger point.
Now, why I brought you here and what you have in common with Greg, you're both founders. He is a little more senior. What are the things you'd like to know from a more seasoned founder, because you have just founded your business in a very sensitive area?
If founders of smaller companies look at what is being offered in the world, we often see very good platforms, be it a Google platform, Amazon platform, or Microsoft platforms, but they're tailored up to a certain level, and then there's a gap between my business, or which might be even a new business, and what the platform offers. And so, if I understand correctly, you bridge that gap for a specific area. I'm looking also for someone that bridges that gap for my business, and I would like to know, like, why did you go into that sector and bridge the gap there, for example?
I looked at the NoSQL technology, the cloud technology, and I knew that I needed to do something with that because I knew it was revolutionary and it was going to change everything. I'm old enough to be around for the whole relational database management revolution, which changed everything, and I saw what that did. And so I see the same thing coming with this, or it's happening now. Once we got into it, we started to look at different industries and the problems that those industries were having. So we looked at asset management, we looked at health sciences, and we looked at utilities, and we found a massive gap in utilities. And we thought, and we looked at the money that was in utilities, and we said, you know what, this is where we ought to be. We ought to be focusing. Instead of building our own solution, we did it through acquisition, and that's the best thing that we did. We went out and we found a company that was struggling a little bit because their technology couldn't really accommodate the type and amount of data that was coming in. Also, they didn't have some of the advanced features that our platform offered. And we came in and we purchased that company, and along with them, all the customers of that company, rebuilt that company. Now we're servicing a niche, and then from that, we've also noticed in terms of what that company was doing, they're very narrow in terms of their focus, in terms of marketing. We thought, oh, hold on a second, you guys. You know, this product can be used in many, many more data-intensive verticals, and so that's what we're doing, is we're building it out to other areas of the utility sector that have the same problem as water management, which was this company. So I think the you know, spotting those niche opportunities where there is a gap, and looking for a way to sort of fill it and solve it by, in our case, acquisition was invaluable. It was a great move on our part.
Yeah, I can confirm that. So here in Berlin, we have quite a big startup community, lots of serial entrepreneurs, and oftentimes you see an area which is kind of underserved, or there's some companies serving it, but they lack one of the pillars. Maybe some has a strong customer base, but weak marketing, or strong marketing, but weak technology. And if you can go in and replace that pillar by a better one, which seems to be what you did,
yes.
Then you can end up with a very strong company. Is it still possible to invest in your company?
Absolutely.
No, we don't sell shares. We don't sell. No, we keep them.
Absolutely.
I'll give you my card. It's got the stock symbol on it. But yeah, I think one of the real strengths of our company is the people that we have. When we started the company, we had a strong executive management team. We had an extremely strong board with a lot of years of experience, and the board was very active. And on top of that, we had a great investor base as well. So we went out, and the people that initially invested in our company believed in what we were doing, and they're still shareholders today, 2 years after the fact. So they still think that they still know that we're going to get to where we promised them we were going to be. So that said, one of the acquisitions that we'll be doing over the next month, this was a company that has a great product, and the problem is that they don't have the management infrastructure and the sales and marketing group to be able to go out and actually properly distribute their product. And also, they're offering sort of a partial solution. So what we can do is we can come in and sort of round that out, build an envelope around their package, provide that guidance and leadership when it comes to the management side of things, and really help them succeed. These are the kinds of companies that we're after, and we're acquiring, and it's helping us and it's helping them.
Are you acquiring in Europe also?
We'll acquire wherever it makes sense. Yes, absolutely. We plan to grow extremely quickly, and like I said, it's through acquisition of companies with like-minded people and complementary technologies.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Keeping investors happy and keeping investors interested, is that something you work on or you worry about? Can you relate to that question?
Yeah. Even before having them on board, I think it's always good to really look who is that investor. Like, do they see just a monetary opportunity to invest and get a certain multiple by investing in my company? or are they also interested in what I do? So you separate between just VCs that just give venture capital, or strategic investors that might have a good understanding of your business area, that might bring knowledge to your table, or connections network-wise, and that can help you. But of course, like you said, you gotta bring them where you promised them to
What
bring
advice
them.
can you give him?
We decided to start Carl as a public company. Now, still 2 years into it, almost 80% of the shares are still held by insiders and sort of people that are close to the company and know that I speak with on a regular basis. And we're gaining ground in terms of liquidity. More people are coming into the mix. Most of the people know that, we're going to get to exactly where we said we were going to get to right from the very start. So they're staying in for the long run.
Can I ask about your pitches? Because I feel like, especially in the big data area, I mean, you probably know everybody comes with the examples that would excite my neighbor, my children. Like, it's like, let's fly to Mars, and everybody will be in front of the TV and believe and want to believe in the story to fly to Mars. So in the pitch, how much do you tell them the visually appealing stories of preventing a flood from happening in your house?
I usually start off with a consumer example. I leave the utilities side of things to after the fact. I try and tell them something that that they can understand. And a great story is a call.
Tell us one.
This is amazing. This is an amazing story. A colleague of mine has all sorts of smart devices in their house, and he was on a business trip. He lives in Vancouver. He was in Calgary, so he was sitting in his hotel room in Calgary. He's got a camera set up over top of his driveway, and the camera is set to send him a text if there's any movement in the driveway in between midnight and 5 a.m. So he's in his bed in Calgary and in his hotel room, and he wakes up because he receives a text from his camera that says there's somebody moving around. So he looks and he sees that, sure enough, there's somebody there. So immediately what he does is he checks the locks on all his doors to see if all the doors are locked. He finds out his wife left the front door unlocked, so he locks it on his phone. And then he checks the logs for door entries, and he finds out that nobody's been in the house for several hours, and so he's happy with that. He knows that this person hasn't actually entered the house. So then he goes back to the camera and sees that person still lurking around his wife's car in the driveway. So then what he does is he turns on all the exterior lights in the house from his phone, sitting in his bed in a hotel room, 1,000 kilometers away. And the person gets scared, runs away. He checks the camera, checks the doors again, closes down his application, puts his phone down, and goes back to his sleep. His wife and his kids were upstairs. They had no idea any of this occurred. So that's the story that I sort of start off with, and then I like to add to that. He shouldn't have had to do that on his phone, because with machine learning, his house should know. His house will know eventually to do exactly what he did to get rid of this guy, and then he'll just look at a log file the next day and find out that his house scared off an intruder. Now imagine smart cities, infrastructure being built where everything is linked together, and we have sort of a mesh system, or a way that solar-powered devices within a city can be controlled by something on Microsoft Azure that looks at the weather prediction and says, it's going to be cloudy for a week. We better decrease the voltage here, so dim the lights a little bit so we can get through this cloudy period without having a complete blackout if those solar panels control lights, say, and things like that. Then I get into those kinds of things, and I find it the transition from talking about a consumer experience to an industrial IoT experience really helps people. I was watching a video from James Whitaker from Microsoft, and he's got a great video where he's sitting there in a craft brew pub. You've seen this, and he's sitting there, and he's looking at his beer, and he's saying his beer is getting empty, and he's saying, "Why isn't this glass telling the waiter that I need another beer?" and the bottom line is that we're not too far away from that.
Well, would the glass tell the waiter to not serve the 5th beer to him?
Well, we call it taxi.
It's a question of the algorithm you put behind it.
That's right. That's right.
There's one difference between the two of you, and you can give the answer to that.
Oh, yeah.
That is, please excuse me, but no one gives a damn about knowing about your sewage and the dirt in it. Don't take it personal. I don't see any hacker trying to find out the dirt in the sewage of the Los Angeles system. Whereas money is always interesting.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
how do you tell your partners like banks that you are doing a secure business? People want to know where their money is. And the security, the legal security requirements for the data storage of banks are the most tough and serious.
It was one of the things that we did before we actually even started. Especially when moving data to the cloud, you have to make sure that it's really proper. At the same time, it can be actually easier to secure data in the cloud than on old on-premise machines, because actually the one threat is always the inside threat. So I was also on one project with Bridgewater, the largest hedge fund in the world, and they were outsourcing their back office to Bank of New York Mellon, and they told us, guys, you know what I'm really afraid of? I'm really afraid of internal theft or internal damage. Like you fire a person, and that used to be your admin, and he does damage that an external person can hardly do. So I think there in system design, you start like, how do you design your system? So first having your data in a private cloud, first of all, making sure that technically everything is pretty much encrypted. But then you need a real security model for your people, especially like who has access to what and when, and then also what requires a 4i principle. So some actions can only be done when two people do that, and everything needs to be persistent. So that means whatever action is done, even if someone just corrects a wrong number, that wrong number will stay in the system forever, and you can always, like in a journal, read with a timestamp at what time, from which PC, who did that, with what authorization. And that all can also be checked. So we got TÜV coming in to check us. We got Symantec coming in, internet security company.
Let me just explain. TÜV is a German public technical security authority.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So they earn money by checking companies regarding their security, data privacy, obedience, kind of to the rules and regulations. And from the TÜV, for example, we got a compliment that he said it was the best system he had seen in a couple of years, which is not so surprising if you have the chance to set it up from scratch, because a lot of companies, they would love to do that, but they sit on a pile of legacy systems that are, whatever, decades old, and few hundreds of them that are intertwined using some old school APIs, and it's really tough to detangle that and to replace it. Like, I've been on several projects with banks, and it's a nightmare for them. And sometimes they don't even know what the systems do. They have old provision systems that calculate the provisions, for example, for life insurances, and they keep them running because they say, okay, like in 5 years there will be no more contracts running on that system, then we're going to turn it off, and it's much cheaper than finding out what that thing does and redoing it. And we have the advantage as a new company to not have to do that. And I think that's also a big business opportunity for companies like Microsoft, like offering that infrastructure, like the green field on which to build, and then for special industries, having companies that bridge the gap from the green field to the solution. So then all you need is a good team that knows what kind of business they want to build, and then they can build it right on top in a very quick and also clean and sophisticated manner.
Thomas, how do you provide for security?
Oh,
Microsoft
big
has
story.
a special thing for Germans and Europeans in Europe
Yes, we have.
who want to know that
yes.
our data stay on our continent.
Yes, of course. We have just launched the Microsoft Cloud for Germany to address that topic in Germany, because especially Germany, they want to have the data inside the country. And we have not only that, we have the discussion of traveling data, so it's a Court of Schengen discussion within the European space, and so we have to assure that the data isn't leaving the country as well. And of course, you have the transparency requirements and so on. So we decided to go into this market with a very, very specific and dedicated approach to place 2 data centers in Germany. One is in Frankfurt and one is in Magdeburg, which completely have the Azure opportunities. It will have the Office capabilities and Dynamics as well. And we have a very, very specific model for the market. So we brought these 2 data centers to Germany. Why 2? So it's because if you come to Microsoft, you always have geo-redundant backup 3 times both sides. So you have to do it. It wouldn't make sense to have one data center in Germany and the other data center outside the country. So it doesn't make sense. We decided to disconnect these 2 data centers, completely different from our overall cloud model, from all other Microsoft backbones, from all the networks. We have more than 100 data centers around the world, and these 2 are disconnected from this backbone because of the travel routing topic. We decided to have a specific model with a local partner like Deutsche Telekom and their T-Systems, who are the data trustee in our cloud, who will act as a sort of isolator between the customer data and Microsoft. So no Microsoft colleague has any access, nor legal, physical, logical, or something like that to the data. It's always guarded by T-Systems as well. And we comply to local standards like the BSI standards as well, and so on. So it's a very, very specific approach. But let me add one more thing to the discussion you had before. And I think Greg mentioned the very, very compelling scenarios you have, and you mentioned the scenarios with the banking, and we talked about algorithms. I think it's really important to understand that from our perspective, there comes a lot of responsibility within this discussion. How do you deal with algorithms? Which algorithms do you want? Which decisions do you want them to make? And it's not only reduced on this automatic driving topic. It's coming down to the question: if you collect the medical data and fuel them into the insurance system, how do you avoid discrimination of people? So from our perspective, we have the trust topic. This is the security topic as well. The responsibility, what are we doing with this technology, and we have the inclusion topic as well. So to really try to leave no one behind all this technology and make it so sophisticated that it's only for some elites to use them, companies. So I think the cloud has to really democratize the digital transformation for smaller companies, for startup companies, and there's a real chance in the cloud for that.
Can you use this for your clients? What he just developed in terms of security? Do you have clients beyond sewage systems who are interested in the security of your data? Or maybe you're facing clients who will have precious information that is valuable to their business.
We have no problem putting in or customizing our solution to fit whatever their security needs are. So if we go into a city or if we go into a utility and they say, look, we've got a person who's responsible for data security, and then this data security officer says these are the prerequisites for us to access, or anybody to access this information. We'll work with that person to come up with a secure solution and put it in place. And now that we've moved the applications over to the platform that they're on, we can actually do that because Microsoft does come with all sorts of roles and other security features that have been with Microsoft for quite some time, which allow us to have a great depth in terms of managing user-level security.
Thomas Langkabel, Steffen Wachenfeld, thank you very much for sharing your insights in business intelligence and big data. And all the best for your future investors.
Thank you.
Now let us welcome Dr. Björn Bringmann and Wolfgang Bernecker. Björn is head of data science with Deloitte in Germany. He issued a patent on network graph evolution rule generation. Wolfgang is managing partner of Pandata, a Berlin-based boutique offering solutions and services from data creation to analysis. Wolfgang, you're building a new business. How do you approach your clients and how do you seduce them to enjoy the idea of your business intelligence?
I think the problem is they won't enjoy it in the very beginning. I think one of the main points of seducing them is educating them about the possibilities. One thing that we encounter very often is sort of fear from all these data-related things. We see that if you think about 10, 15, 20 years ago, the processing powers and the computing powers of servers and computers were just not where they are now. So you had to build an infrastructure that was very rigid and very big in order to deal with big amounts of data. So what has happened is that many smaller and medium-sized companies, who are mainly our clients, they think, as soon as you say the word data analysis, business intelligence, as soon as you start talking about these topics, what you see is the fear that what you're trying to sell them is some sort of very, very big monolith of a structure. So mainly how we seduce our clients is in educating them about the agile possibilities, agile data warehousing, about building lean business intelligence tools. We build a lot of classical, even though agile, but still very classical, lean data warehousing business intelligence solutions. Usually when we approach a client, we do talk about the magical possibilities of data. However, usually you have to take baby steps. You have to take the very first steps in the beginning. You have to think about all the possible data sources. You have to think about actually first setting up the landscape in order to then be able to build something on top of it. This is what we focus on a lot. We build a lot of data infrastructure. So what I would be curious is about, how do you deal with big data solutions for clients that don't even have small data?
Our solutions typically rotate around dashboards and GIS solutions, and so they can visualize their infrastructure. So we lead them in through data visualization, I think you might say, with pictures. And that way it doesn't come as such a shock to them. They don't know about the billions of rows of information that are being accumulated and stored in a system that's a non-relational system that they're not comfortable with. It's a NoSQL system, and then in terms of things like the predictive models that we introduce, we do that very, very slowly. There's a lot of skepticism when it comes to predictive models. I would say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and when it comes to people who are very data shy because they haven't even been exposed to the data warehouse side of things, making sure that we have very descriptive dashboards or a GIS representation, sort of a heat map of what's happening within their system is by far the best way to go.
If you've got big clients now, you're talking about, you've got TV companies, right?
TV, public broadcasting.
What do you do for those TV companies?
These companies usually, they already had to deal with data. If you're a big company already, there's always going to be some sort of data implementation. So the world that we have out there is not a world where data has never been used. It's just a world where maybe everybody was fearful of data. But in the end, be it that you're a big public company or just a TV company or you're just a small or medium-sized enterprise, at the end you always had to deal with data to some extent. So you always had some form of business intelligence. You always had the financial reporting that you needed to make, and your sales people were probably already reporting their sales. So the environment we are now entering with these data solutions is not an environment where data has not existed. Data exists always in every environment. So the question is how was the infrastructure behind it? For example, if you talk about the big clients, usually we get in at the point where they say, they have the feeling that either they have to build, as Greg just said, they have to think about Excel files, really, really small solutions that are definitely not scalable. And the only other option they see are very, very big SAP-like infrastructures that will cost them a lot of money, cost them a lot of resources, cost them a lot of time, and be very rigid. So this is the situation that we enter in, we come in play, and we say there's another option, and it's something that's in between. We can build an infrastructure, we can use the data, and we can still then be scalable about it.
Now, what did TV guys learn from you?
So
I'm a TV guy, you tell me. What
So-
did your machine tell the TV guys? They want to program in a way that people watch it and they get their market share.
Yes.
That's what they want.
Yes.
How do you help them?
So we came on a project that was based on the realization that TV might not be as linear in the future as it is now, which is a realization that probably many people had a long time ago, and then now it's slowly creeping into public broadcasting as well. And so the idea is, let's move to the internet with the content. And as soon as you move to the internet, you open up yourself to countless possibilities of using the data and actually having access to data. So if you think about the TV data that you have access to right now, a lot of it is very, very bad quality, very unsecure data. You have to imagine basically you have, 10, 20,000 boxes in households throughout Germany that measure TV audiences. And this is just a sample, and from this sample we'll extrapolate the actual number. So you can imagine what the quality is of that. Obviously, once you enter and you bring your content to the internet, all of a sudden on third platforms such as YouTube and Facebook and Snapchat, you get access to all these amazing data sets. And so this
You know who's watching or how long they're watching. You don't know who.
Yeah,
you don't know how old
it.
they are.
We would
but
wish
you
to have
know
more
how
of it.
long
Yes.
they're watching and what they were watching and when they were bored.
Yes, exactly. And then you can see the average watch time of videos, and you can start, for example, optimizing for that. And an interesting is when it comes into play, and this maybe Greg, you can say something about your experience in this, is when you start talking about text mining and natural language processing through machine learning. Then all of a sudden you open up the possibilities of scraping the comment sections of Facebook, of YouTube, and seeing what are these people writing about in the comments. And then it becomes super interesting, because what you can do then is, as you said before, we don't really know who's watching the content. We know when they clicked on it, we see how long they watched it, and maybe we have very basic demographics, especially in the realm of Facebook, we have access to that. But to really get better in it, what you can actually do is do language processing of the comment section. And you can just by going through these comments, and if you have a text model that is big enough, you write a comment of around 200 to 250 characters, and I will be able to make a pretty strong prediction on your gender, your age, your education level. And this is very, very informative data.
You have a world of experience understanding social networks from also your former jobs with a hotel company, where
Yes.
you try to understand where are the people who slept in our house today and,
That's right.
and
That's
who's
right.
going to come next. And what does Cardata offer to understand the movement of viewers and the movement of viewers of the television, and also on the internet and participants on the internet?
There's a component of our system that does unstructured text mining. It takes information from things like social media sites, Facebook, and grabs that information, parses it out, and then does what Wolfgang was saying. It looks at sentiment, temporality. Are they talking about the past, present, future? Are they what subjects are they using? What action words are they giving direction or asking for direction? And these are the kinds of things that you can extrapolate from that unstructured text, which is absolutely amazing, because from a marketer's perspective, it gives you better insight than demographics ever did, because these are actionable pieces of information that are happening right now that you can act on. So it's a very, very powerful tool.
Björn, how does Deloitte use business intelligence for their clients or your clients?
Oh, many different ways. And I think there's always a big step before actually the business intelligence being active. giving actual insights to the clients, because many clients actually decided at some point that they need to step into the world of big data, and then they went out and bought hardware. And now they have that hardware standing there and it's humming, and that's great, but it doesn't actually provide any insights or actionable results, as they like to be called. And if you like, then we're sometimes called in for help trying to make that hardware produce actionable insights. And then where it starts with is typically education. So educating them that it's not an IT problem, that it's also not a solution for their IT, but that it's a business question they have to start with. And then we start basically from there, if you like, until the hardware layer, trying to discover with them together what a valuable business question would be, how they can tackle it, if they have the according data they would need already, or if there is some way they can collect it. There might be legal issues, especially in Germany, as we heard earlier. So these need to be taken into account, and then at some point you will have probably a full sketched out solution. And that we typically do the sketching out in like a short, maybe 2-day workshop, which is very exhausting. So the people at the end are very happy to go to bed. And then we start with a small prototype to really prove that that works, and only if it works. And it typically doesn't really work in the way it was envisioned at the beginning. It works in some way. Typically we find interesting insights that we didn't expect. Quite often it works roughly in the way it was intended for, but hardly ever 100%, unless the problem is really clear. And then there is obviously a second step where you say, okay, is this something really valuable? Does it work the way it's supposed to be? And then it can be scaled up.
Do you have a success story where your data science or business intelligence really changed how a company did business and maybe even turned it around or opened new markets to them they didn't see before?
In the World Cup in Brazil, we thought, let's show the world that we can actually predict future outcomes. So what do Germans like next to beer? That's obviously soccer. So we actually built a model that could predict, or was very good at predicting, the outcomes of the games in the World Cup.
How did you do that?
Well,
did you watch everyone's movements?
No, it was actually a lot simpler. So there's very simple data available on soccer teams. So you could go into a lot more detail to do that, but we just leveraged very simple data available and a very long history of soccer. So I remember 1872 was the first soccer match between England and Scotland, and I had absolutely no idea about soccer before we started this project. And then you realize the last 10 years, I believe, contain 1/3 of all worldwide soccer games in terms of country matches. And the information in there we leveraged to actually build a pretty good predictive model, which outperformed, I think, about 90% of the human players there. And we thought, okay, it's mostly Germans, so they will be doing very good on the German team. Actually, that was devastating to see that the Germans are very bad at predicting German team performance. So that was one which isn't really a success story for one particular client, other than showing that it's really worth to trust on the data, to trust on the models. It's something you can use. Obviously, we hardly ever predicted one exact outcome, but overall, and that's the key point, mostly in the solutions, we were better than the average human, or than, in this case, everybody who expected to be good in this betting game, because you could actually win a prize. For a client, that comes down to typically a little bit more complex things. So one thing would be if you're leasing a product, there might be a point in time where the product is actually worth more than the current customer would get for it. So that might be a point in time where you, as a company leasing off the product, might take it back, and then you have a gap between what it's worth on the market and what it's still worth in the leasing contract. Leveraging this gap, this is something we identified for a customer, and that works very well. And then obviously what you have quite often is using predictions to tailor the products. So let's say you have a certain financial contract you want to set up with a customer. If you analyze a customer, you might be able to give them a contract which is very special to them, which caters to exactly their needs.
Mm-hmm. Predictions. How demanding are your clients with predictions? I mean, once they get the taste of you can predict things, they might come up with ideas of asking you to be extremely exact about predictions. Like, you predict the stock market.
I'd like to be able to predict the stock market, and a lot of people are trying to do that. But I think the problem is trying to eliminate bias and bad data from your data set, and we're always trying to do that. But of course, with our applications, we're using stream analytics. So as the information is coming in, we're manipulating it and then updating our model. We were predicting dry weather patterns, and they do this with a combination of a whole bunch of different variables and things like that. And the thing that really screws up these models are if our commercial breaks during football games, right? So the you have everything going along smoothly, and then you'll have an event where all of a sudden there'll be an anomaly and a spike, and that information will be accepted as a part of the overall data set, and it's in danger of skewing the results if you don't have a lot of data. Now, if you have a lot of information, you collect a ton of information, then really a lot of those outliers, those biases that are sort of overwritten over time by the sheer amount of data that you collect. But you have to be careful, and typically we're most at risk when we're starting a brand new site and we don't have a lot of data. And so sometimes when we're trying to get people to push that button and they see something that doesn't make any sense at all, typically it's because we just don't have enough data to provide a model that's 100% succinct. So they're always on us, why doesn't this work? Well, the answer is there's many different answers to that question, and we can answer them all if you give us just a little bit of time. But the end message to the client is wait, give it some time, and it'll learn, and it'll overcome those biases in time.
Mm-hmm. Björn, you're head of data science. In other terms, you're a brain.
Yeah, that's the corner I'm put into.
So let us talk about the future. Where do you think we go? Where would you predict business intelligence and the use of big data leads us beyond the examples that we've already heard?
I think we see more and more coming up of what's actually considered to be artificial intelligence at that point. And I'm feeling a little bit sorry about mentioning artificial intelligence as it's becoming a buzzword right now. But I think what we've seen so far is really companies, like in the past, I think the relational database revolution was mentioned. So that's, from my point of view, the point where you probably started collecting all the data. Then we got the internet, we got mobility, we got social networks. And it's all collecting data, and it's all in a very rigid way at the back end, if you like, even if there are no SQL databases. And at the end of the day, the humans taking the data and doing something with it. Obviously, you can scale the human in a certain way because maybe the actual user, if you like, of the data provides a formula, runs it through a database, 1 million rows in a second, but the formula comes from the person. Now, if you think what the idea of artificial intelligence would be, is that you actually have systems that can learn based on, well, information and learn from their own experience. Now, if these systems can be put in places where they can actually work right now, so I'm not thinking of the overlord or something that's going to rule everything, but if they can be tailored for certain problem situations, you can free up the human resources being in there right now, typically doing very stupid jobs at the moment, and give them something to do which is a lot more creative, which at the beginning is actually a challenge to convince the people doing those current jobs that they will be freed of the boring tasks, will be able to do the more intelligent, more challenging tasks. So one thing I would say, which is probably going to be harder for an artificial intelligence, is really to be creative and to see things which haven't been there yet. I mean, we're speaking about discovering elements in data that nobody thought of before, but discovering elements in the world which are not actually recorded in any kind of data yet, that's going to be very hard and probably the last task for machines to be leveraged. And everything else can probably be step by step being done by machines. That sounds like a very sad world where everybody's out of work, but then again, do you have anything against lying on the beach all day? I mean,
well,
so that would be the vision, if you like.
If the business model works and the machines earn the money and they still want to share the profit with us,
yeah, well,
it takes our ideas. You say we still need people to be creative.
Yes, I believe you can see machines being creative. That's typically when a machine did a mistake, let's say, and somebody discovered that mistake was actually something smart. So there we come, it gets a little tricky at the moment to say if machines can ever be creative, because they would need to be able to judge if the mistake, so to speak, they make is something valuable or not. So there I believe humans are very, very key, in a very key position to do that at the moment.
But the machine then didn't make a mistake, right? Because the mistake was made in the software probably running it.
That's a very interesting philosophical discussion,
So
I guess,
no.
but yes.
So if you say that a machine can only be creative through errors, then basically, and that the error at some point was human-made, then we come back to the question: can a machine actually be creative? I mean, that's a question I wanted to ask Greg as well. So because you provide a solution for big data, so you're a software company to some extent. But on the other side, as we were just discussing about the creativity, can machines actually be creative? How much do you see yourself also as a data consulting company?
Quite a bit as a data consulting company, because we have to remember that the industries that we're dealing with mostly deal with the relational database management system. So somebody sat there and said, well, this fits with this and this fits with that, and they created a structure for everything. Now we're saying, no, there's no relationship between anything, and we'll let a machine decide where the relationships are. That's where the aha moments come in, because relationships or correlations between variables that weren't thought to exist before and weren't in that standard relational database management structure that's been used for decades, all of a sudden appear. So yes, we are a data services company in that we will be showing people different correlations between variables that they may have not thought had any relationship to each other before we actually put it in this system.
What comes to my mind is we were talking about text processing earlier. If you think about text processing, there's really amazing libraries and possibilities in terms of text processing. One of which we looked into is called Word2Vec, and it basically is the idea of representing every word in a given text as a vector of all possible combinations to other words. The idea is basically you feed it, oftentimes you feed it data sets such as the entire Wikipedia, because that's a very nice, openly available set of data. And if you do that, then you will have representations of every single word in a vector, and having it vectorized allows you to actually do calculations on it. So what you can do, for example, is you can take the word Obama and then subtract from it the word USA, and then you can add to this the word Russia, and what actually the machine will end up giving you is Putin. And that's an amazing, nobody ever taught the machine, the model, that this would be the case. But actually, because it saw all the relations of everything, then it can deduct that Obama minus USA plus Russia is Putin. And this leads to the creative side that I mentioned, because what you can actually then do is do some sort of more creative subtractions. For example, you can take the word human and subtract from it the word ethics, and the machine will give out animals, which is something that nobody taught the machine. And if you think about it, there might be something you think, oh, well, actually, that's kind of correct. Humans minus ethics, maybe to some extent animals. But this is the creativity that lies in a completely, well, if you want, like in a completely machine-driven model, and still it has this feel that you don't really know what comes out of it.
You get the sense that you're walking around in a world where you're somewhat blind to reality. And certainly there's aspects of this technology that open up our eyes to things that we never thought existed. And that is really, really neat.
Yeah. Today we are talking about big data. And in 5 years, we'll watch this video and laugh. Because it'll be as common as having a computer or having a mobile phone or a smartphone. Do you dare to predict beyond once big data and using it all for business intelligence and machine learning may have become common knowledge and common business and things kids play with in the afternoon after school? What would be the next
Is it my
challenge?
chance to end up in the library of wrong predictions for the future? But I think if you compare what we currently consider as normal to what we but didn't really exist 30 years ago. How many emails did you receive today? And how many people had access to this technology 30 years ago? If you use this kind of paradigm shift we have just observed, we have just lived through, and predict that on the next 30 years, then I think you get to a very interesting point. So maybe you can just use a model similar to what he said. We take the last 30 years and add them to the current status. Let's see what the machines tells us where we end up. There might be a lot better prediction than most humans could do.
Björn, Wolfgang, Greg, thank you very much. It's been absolutely inspiring talking with you about big data opportunities. Thank you for watching. Please mail us whatever you would like to know at roundtable@comcap.media. And do share your views on big data opportunities on our Comcap Media Facebook page.